Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Moda, and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Man, we cannot catch a freaking break. We were finally starting to get some momentum, and then bam, got news of this conflict going on. So we're going to talk about what's going on, not so much focus on the news, but kind of what we're doing with that, right? Because of that news, did affect the markets quite a bit. There are quite a bit of opportunities. So we're just going to look at these data points. We're going to go through a bunch of different coins, look at different data points, and kind of how we're playing the situation. Because again, whenever we have this event or these types of events, just really nothing but opportunities, right? So we're going to look at data points. We're going to see how we're playing this thing to make the most of it, okay? If that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. It's crazy, bro. So, not going to get too much into the news, just kind of what's going on. There's the conflict going on with Iran and Israel, and tensions are extremely high, going back and forth, and looks like they're going to continue, right? We're given the hints yesterday. Trump was tweeting about it, and he kind of even reposted one of the tweets like, hey, get ready, start getting some USDT ready because it's coming. And it came. There's some pretty good opportunities. The biggest thing, though, is just it killed the momentum, man. We were finally starting to get to the point where we're building some momentum. Things were looking positive. Bam. Swung it all back. So we're going to have to see how long this thing takes. Ultimately, like, yes, it always dumps, but it does typically recover. Especially if there's a resolution in the somewhat short term. Again, we don't know. This can turn into a much longer conflict. Chances are, we'll see. We're going to see how it plays out. We're not going to make commentary on that too much. Let's just focus on what else it's affecting, and it's mining profitability. To me, I think this is kind of the biggest bummer. Things were kind of starting to look like it was almost time to start getting ready to plug back in or do things, and again, this just really killed the momentum. We're going to see if this affects anything else, right? Typically, when these types of events happen, the bigger killer is if something else happens on top of this, right? When we get like a cascading effect almost. Hopefully, potential is just this, and it's not too long of a thing, and we can kind of pick back up. But if this happens, and then a few days later, something else significant happens that's completely unrelated, it can definitely kill the momentum, right? But again, the biggest downfall is just mining profitability, right? This has definitely been a big bummer this the whole beginning of the year, right? If we look at overall profitability, I mean, we got to go down pretty far because we can't even look at any of these because, again, they're Hydra units. The A3 is not even out yet. The DG2 Plus isn't even out yet. The first one that actually is out is the Volk Miner D1, 11 bucks a day. The L9, $11 a day. So far, even with this dump, I mean, that's still not bad. Again, this is at a 10-cent kilowatt hour. I get it. It's not what it was before, but again, you're making profit. It's been profitable the entire time. Those are the types of things we want to see because we can't say the same for a lot of these other ASICs, right? We've seen the name of the game, especially with a lot of these other altcoin ASICs. It's been a tough go, right? Realistically, until we get some more sustained momentum. Might possibly continue a bit longer, right? Even in GPU mining world, it was starting to get some momentum, and it still is kind of there, depending on the card, obviously, right? The name of the game is definitely like the CMP 170HXs, or any of the more top-tier cards. Realistically, that's bang for the buck wise. It is one of the best, right? Because, again, it's up here with like the 5090, 5080 at a drastically different price. Although it's not making crazy profit, I mean, it's still break even or better. In some cases, it's not bad, right? A single one on Quai is making 42 cents. Which is not too bad, as well as the few other options. Ergo, Raven are also profitable, and this is at a 10-cent kilowatt hour. Okay, so not bad overall. Even if we go down to like a 3070, which we got to go pretty far down, as crazy as it is, it's profitable on Quai and Firo, surprisingly. And that's kind of about it, right? Zano, you're break even, you're making about a penny. So same thing kind of here. It has been kind of a bummer. It's been kind of bouncing back and forth. It's been a rough go. Definitely on the mining aspect, it's been a rough go. The name of the game these past 6 months has definitely been buying the coin, and that's 100% where my focus has been, right? Aside from my little D-pin projects, as far as like the actual proof of work goes, those things have been off, right? It's essentially been D-pin on the mining side. It's been the Helium devices, the GeoNet, the Rover, the Natix. Those have been kind of the only things kind of continuing to earn rewards, right? And is it a ton? Not really, but we're just stacking what we can. But in reality, the amount of money that I would be putting towards the electric for the ASICs, I've just been DCAing with this entire time, right? So it's definitely not as fun. But in a sense, though, it's been not only lucrative, in some cases, kind of a little bit better just because of these significant price dips. And that's kind of where our focus has been, right? And might continue to be for the foreseeable future, right? Especially when opportunities like this pop up, right? So we're going to take just a quick look at the market, which overall, again, with the news, did definitely dip. Again, we like to focus on the orange coin, and it dipped down to, I think it went down to 102. So it didn't go under 100. So 101,405. Okay, so it's currently recovered a bit. It's back up to 105. But overall, it's been holding up fairly well. I mean, the fact that it didn't go below 100K does kind of say a lot. The key metric we're going to reference here, again, we love to see when there's a lot of pumps, and we love to see when there's a lot of dips or dumps, just for research purposes, just to kind of contrast and compare, right? For example, right now we are having a dump period. BTC not getting affected a whole lot. BTC has been doing excellent, right? It's the alts that have been hurting, and realistically, as far as DCA purposes, that's more of where my focus has been, right? So as far as data points go, like, yes, we did dump right now. We also did have a massive dump back on April 7th, right? Which was pretty short term. And this is one, again, that affected all markets. So this is a good comparison to see value, right? Was it a really significant dip? Is it like, how aggressive should we go on the DCA? Is it a massive dip, or is it just a kind of a slight dip? And these are the types of things I like to reference, which is why we like to kind of take note of these more significant days, right? So a lot of the times I will do videos such as today, just kind of referencing what was going on, just to be able to kind of retrace and look back. Like, for example, again, we're going to reference this April 7th date. And as we look back, of course, to do a video on that day, just talking about it, and that was because we had more tariff news as well as Black Monday, right? So that's essentially what that was for reference purposes. But as we go through a lot of the coins, at least I'm into, again, these are just coins I'm into, not saying that they're good coins or you should go into them, as just data points, right? So you can apply the same type of logic to whatever coins are in your portfolio or whatever coins you are into, right? But these are the types of things I kind of look for just to kind of get an idea. What should I DCA into? Because again, most of our portfolios, a lot of us have more than just a handful of coins, right? Depending on your positions. Like, I have mine kept at 15, although it did go down a bit. I think I'm down to 13. And the goal realistically would be to get it under 10, right? So it's just a game of consolidation. Just because I can really hone in on those coins, right? And I kind of follow those coins a lot. So I follow the price action, like what's a good price, what's not a good price. So we'll start out with Caspa. So again, we're going to be in the 3-month chart. Again, we want to compare this current dip back to that April 7th dip. So again, back on April 7th, again, this is when we're back at a nickel Caspa. So although this is a big dip from where we were recently, if any of you guys took profits, not the worst thing in the world to kind of buy back in potentially. Could it go lower? Yes. Is this a huge priority for me? Not so much, just because, again, it's one I already have a bunch of, and then we did buy some more back at a nickel. If it breaks a nickel, if it goes down below that, goes down to 4 cents, 3 cents, then sure, definitely going to add some. But at the current price, yes, it's a dip. But because of my position size, not really one I'm looking at getting into. Render's another one that's been on the radar for a long time. So this guy currently is at 344 on that April 7th dip. Went down to 250. Okay, so yes, it did go down some. Did it go down that much? Not as much, right? So let's continue down the list. Sui is another very popular one that ran hard. And kind of the same thing. Like, yes, it did dip down to $3, but again, going back to April 7th, it was sub $2. It was $1.91. So when I look at it, and the fact that this market cap is already so huge, not super appealing at this point, right? I want it to be either down here or lower, especially if I'm going to start a new position, right? At this point, I'm not really keen on starting new positions unless it's a very much more speculative coin, right? Or unless I have a lot to kind of lump DCA into at once, right? Which is not the case currently. Near Protocol is another one that got pretty close, right? So it's currently at 221. The dip down here went down to under $2, down to $1.92. So it's within 10%, right? So this is actually not a bad one. Not a bad price if you're into Near. It's ranked number 47. This is one that's a little bit more interesting, and it's Sonic, which was previously Phantom. They actually just got listed on Coinbase, but again, horrible timing because it was right in the middle of this thing, right? So because of that, there's no Coinbase pump. This is one that we've been waiting to get a Coinbase pump since in the Phantom days. It kind of never happened. It didn't happen on the last cycle and just came now, and it's just extremely shitty timing. But it's opportunistic timing just because of the dump, right? So again, this is one that if you do look on the 3-month chart, it is actually quite a bit lower than what it was back on April 7th. So to me, that kind of flashes the signals not being a bad deal, right? So it did get bumped all the way up to number 91. This is one that did get a lot of momentum because, again, it's very big into DeFi. It did have quite a resurgence for quite a while. It did get up in the 80s back in February, ultimately hovered in the 50-60 range, and just did get a good amount of hype just because of everything going on, right? Again, it's a very big DeFi chain. And if you think there's going to be a resurgence with DeFi, which has been getting a lot of traction recently, not a bad bet at this price, right? Because even back when it was Phantom, during the dips of the bear market, I think it was like 18 to 20 cents is where we bought a decent chunk, right? And we did buy some at 30 cents. So overall, these are the types of things we kind of tend to look for if it's one you're interested in. Again, I'm not saying this is one to purchase, but these are the types of things when I see that, it's like, okay, this is a potential one just because it is lower than that previous dip price. Another one, and this is one we've been bouncing positions back and forth in, and actually this is probably going to be the one I do DCA a little bit into, probably right after this video, just because it is essentially back down to that dip price, right? This is one that we did purchase down here. Not even recently, it was before all of that actually, but it did have that run up to like almost 10 cents, or not 10 cents, up to a penny, and at that point we dumped all of it and put it into something else, and then that snowballed, and that turned something else, etc., etc. But it's essentially back to those prices, right? And even when we look at the 90-day, it's pretty much back down to those dips within just a few percent. And the appealing part here is that when we look at the max chart, because again, this is a new coin for this cycle, it's pretty close to the freaking lows, right? So if this is one you think has potentially bullish on, again, this is in the gaming sector, not a bad price, right? So this is one I will probably jump back into just because, again, it is a higher confidence play as far as it being like an aggregate in the Web3 gaming space. Again, not advocating for these coins. These are just coins I personally follow. Another one is Sol, and yes, it did dip down to 147 from being at nearly 180, but again, when we reference that April 7th date, it was sub $100. Right? And again, this is the one that has already ran massively this bear market, so it's not super appealing at that price point, although it's not the worst thing in the world if you, because again, it's one that typically does recover fast. So one thing we did notice, one kind of regret of not buying quite a bit more down here, is a lot of the coins we did DCA into were SPL tokens, so tokens on Solana. Those didn't recover as quickly, right? So realistically, a play would have been to buy Sol at $100, run it up to here or here if you were patient enough, and buy those smaller cap coins, because a lot of those smaller cap coins didn't really move that whole time. So all those Sol like 2x, a lot of those coins didn't, right? So that could have been a play, and one that worst case scenario, if the other ones ran along with it, I would just keep the Solana, right? It's not one I don't mind DCing into. So there's potential things like that when you look at the data, right? Because realistically, a lot of those smaller micro caps, like anything out of the top, like 300, a lot of those really haven't been running, right? Most of the ones that tend to recover the fastest are those like higher conviction plays, those like heavier layer ones, right? Another one that's dipped down quite a bit is AVAX. It's under $20 again, although not a massive lower. I mean, it was at $25-26, so about 20%. In that April dip, it did go down to about $14, so not too bad overall. And then this is when we look at things and it could definitely make sense, right? So when you get runners that go up extremely quick in a short amount of time, this is why I profit take on some of these, right? So when we profit take, what do? We hold it, either buy something else, or we hang on to it for these types of days, right? So whenever we have something that runs and does like a 4, almost 5x, like we sold at we're buying down here at sub 50 cents, and then when it runs up to like, I think we sold at $1.75, it did actually go over $2 farther down, but I think I dumped mine at $1.75. So once you get like a 3.5, 4x in a short amount of time, I profit take, right? And realistically, it's again for these times. So obviously I'm not going to buy back in because this is even higher than what I sold it at. But it's to take advantage of these other coins that have gone down, right? So everybody has their own strategy. Some like to mine and hodl, but when I see like quick opportunities like that, I'm gonna dump it, right? Because if you get a quick forex there, and even putting it into a safer play that like, okay, I think this one can do another forex. That's how you kind of snowball things, right? So whether it's like short term, long term, again, you kind of have to come up with your own things. Realistically, a one play with virtuals, they just released an agent on ETH. I don't know if any guys saw that with Iris. People got like 400 or 500 X's on that thing, which again, if you're deep in those protocols, if you deep into those spaces, that's how you kind of find those things, right? Again, when you're all over the place, it's difficult to keep up with. This is why you kind of narrow down different things, and you can see different listings, different potentials of things that come up within that ecosystem, right? But you can definitely see, even just looking at the chart though, a drastic difference between this chart and some of the others, right? Virtuals is a good example. Hyper's another one. Again, this is the same 3-month chart. Drastically different trajectory, and as a matter of fact, this one is, I'm pretty sure it's all-time high levels. Yes, it is. And it's been doing extremely good, right? This freaking ranked number 12 Hyperliquid, which is just insane. It was one of the craziest airdrops of this bear market, and has just been running, right? It's been crazy, crazy run. This is another one. Again, this is the same 3-month chart. People joke about Farcoin, but it's been one of the best plays during this whole year, realistically, right? I mean, you can see here, ever since March, it's just been on a consistent uptrend, even through all the bullshit with all the other alts. It's been pretty insane. This is the fucking crypto market, though, right? This is another one that we did take profits on. Same thing. Again, this is the 3-month chart. When we get like 4x in a small amount of time, we take profits, right? We take profits, and then so we can roll it into these types of dips, right? So this is one that did go up, and it's been holding up fairly well, surprisingly. Again, this is a tiny market cap coin, though. Still has a ton of potential. Although we did take profits, we still have a hefty size bag because, again, we're buying back here. Will it retrace back here? Potentially. Will it stay up at this point? Who knows? But I mean, if we look at the chart, because again, we did have a similar run up back here. This one, unfortunately, did not take a whole lot. It did go all the way back down. Again, the play would have been just to play this freaking chart, right? But again, we try to look for those types of things. Okay, another one, if we look on the 3-month chart, this one's kind of just been even. This is one I did DCA into. This is one I have been DCAing into, especially sub 20 cents. Again, we waited a long ass time for it to break 20 cents. I mean, we've been waiting this whole time, and we finally got it over here, and this is when we've been DCAing a little bit more aggressively. This is one we are active participants in. We are mining also. Just keep in mind, part of the reason I've been trying to get some, especially at these prices, is they do have a halving in a couple of weeks, right? So scarcity, is it going to affect price immediately come July 1st? No, we've seen that again with every project. Their local halving doesn't have an effect in that moment. The only halving that really matters is the BTC halving, but it will affect things come the future, right? When it does come time, if it does have its pump, it can be taken into account at that point, right? But just because it has the halving doesn't mean it's going to have an effect on that day, right? So just make sure you don't misconstrue that. Another one that does have a halving coming up soon also is Helium. Theirs is in August, right? So if you think rewards are shit now, wait till August. But on the tokenomic side, as far as being bullish on the coin, it definitely does make you more bullish. And again, if we look at the 3-month chart, it is pretty close to the lows within 10%. I think it was 220 something. Yeah, 220 something. So it's within 10% of those lows, which is not too bad considering how long it hovered up here, right? So when things recover, I mean, we can see how fast the recovery was there. I do see it repeating pretty similarly. So we look at the longer period chart, we can see it did hover up in these like $5, $7, $9 ranges for quite a while, right? So I do see it definitely returning into those ranges. And hopefully higher, because again, as we look at the all-time chart, you can definitely see where it is now compared to what it was. We look at the market cap, it's still the same type of potential, right? So that's another thing to factor in. Understand the tokenomics. This one is much more mature. There is that halving coming up. So again, scarcity, you don't have to worry so much about inflation, just because again, that's going to get cut in half. So these are the types of different market dynamics we tend to look for, right? And the fact that it did this previously, went up to a $5 billion market cap, I can see it happening again, especially since this time it is way more bullish. It is less speculation based and everything's actually happening. Will it affect things? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know, right? Just because we are more bullish, things are happening, doesn't mean that this is going to repeat, right? Maybe it's only half of that. Maybe it just repeats up here. Who knows? We're going to have to wait and see. But again, even if it just does reach this previous market cap, not the price, right? Don't focus on the price because it's going to take a lot more than that. If it just reaches that same market cap, it'd be about a 10x, right? We're about at 458 million. For it to reach about 5 billion, could reach about 25 bucks, right? If it reaches that, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Who freaking knows? But again, this is one I am bullish on. I do have pretty sizable bag just because, again, we've been mining this thing for so long, right? My little IoT device is going on damn near 4 years running that thing, and it's still actually running, which is surprising. But here we are, guys. But again, when things like this happen, guys, I know it sucks looking at your portfolio, which is why I tell you guys, try to get in the habit of not looking at the fiat values. Set your goals. You want to reach those goals. When we see these types of prices, regardless of what you're into, accumulate and get to those goals, right? So that way when you do see these dips, you're kind of ready for them, right? I already kind of have price points in mind and kind of which ones are on the priority, right? Which ones are already where they need to be at and they need to be a crazy price for me to add more, and which ones I definitely want to add more of, right? So when these dips do happen, the USDT is already there and it's a quick decision. Instead of they're trying to scramble and going through all these things, as a matter of fact, like when I put that tweet out, I already had buy orders in. A lot of them didn't hit, right? Went a little too crazy. I wanted some like sub $100 Sol and all this kind of stuff. None of that stuff hit. Who knows? Maybe it escalates, but realistically, it's hard to go wrong with a lot of things, right? Some of them are obviously up. Like I'm not going to be trying to ape into hyper liquid at all-time highs or virtuals at these types of prices. But as we saw, there are plenty of other coins all over the place that do have decent prices. Again, this doesn't mean I'm going all in, whatever cash I have. It's depending on the coin, just adding a couple $100. Or in this case, the profit taking we did with Natix and with virtuals and whatever else we had stored, we nibble a little bit. Add a little bit more. Like, hey, this one's running a little bit low. This one I need to catch up on. This one I added a lot in. You know what I'm saying? Like, balance out those bags, meet those goals, right? Take advantage. Because again, although these prices are good right now, who's to say, like even with Caspa, it doesn't go back to a nickel if things escalate from here. Again, anything can happen at this point. Things can get more volatile. And if they do, I'll add a little bit more, right? So just have those plans in place. Be ready for these things until you get to the point where you're somewhat excited about these things in the form of opportunity. You're going to struggle with this crypto market, right? Understand the volatility, understands which ones are likely to rebound the fastest, because even there's good short-term plays here also. Depending on what coins you're into, some of them, again, we literally just buy as a short-term play because some of these are going to rebound extremely quickly. Some of them won't, though. Some of them will, like, flatline. That's the case also, right? So that's why anything you do purchase, go with that mindset, that worst-case scenario, like the intention was for it to be a short-term play, but ends up being a long-term play that you're okay with that coin, right? Don't do that with, like, a shitty meme coin that you don't believe in, which some of them are gonna do well, guys. Like, so come up with your own portfolio, come up with your own things. Again, I'm not saying any of these coins are gonna be good. These are just coins I'm looking at or coins and charts that I happen to see and I'm bringing up, right? Let me know in the comments though, guys. What are you guys doing? Are you guys DCing? Or are you guys tired of fucking DCing and buying these dips? Because it feels like we've just been doing that for 3 years. I kind of get that part also, which is why we're only nibbling, right? We're not doing anything aggressive just because, again, kind of how we mentioned how we're looking at this April 7th dip. My overall perspective, I'm looking at bear market lows, right? Because it's a perspective thing, but that's where I purchased the majority of my coins, right? So I'm not necessarily matching these dips. I'm looking like at these dips. I'm comparing to these prices depending on the coin, right? So if they're nowhere near there, like with Solana, like yes, even sub $100 is decent. It's not this decent, right? So that's why it's not bad, but it's not crazy exciting, right? So just depending on the coin, just again, everything's perspective. But let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys are doing. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.